You're very welcome along to Friday Night Rugby. It's a massive weekend because it is Leinster against Saracens in Newcastle for the title as Champions Cup winners. I'm delighted to say that Ronan O'Gara is with us this morning on the line. How are things, Ronan?
Hi, Eoin, and good. Yourself?
Not too bad at all, thanks. So it's quite rare in sport that the two best teams in the competition actually meet one another in the final, but it seems that in this case that is exactly what's happened.
Yeah, and probably by a distance as well. Over a period of time as well, they've been consistently very good with a few obviously bumps along the way, but it's been Leinster and Saracens for the last number of years, so it makes for an enthralling final tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game.
From Leinster's perspective, we'll start with them. Do they need to find another gear and play better tomorrow than they have at any point this season?
Yeah, probably in what we've seen this season, but maybe I don't think they have to find another gear on their quarter-final from last year. I thought they were probably 2 gears ahead of Saracens in that Aviva game. I was taken aback by how superior they were on the day. So in that regard, I think if we see the AA game of Leinster, I think Leinster win, but the beauty of Saracens is that they rarely let teams play their A game, if at all. So, especially in a cup final scenario where, do you know what I mean? You don't have to be the best team for the season. You only have to be the best team for 80 minutes. So, there are a lot of subplots to this game. But to answer your question, I think Leinster do not have to find another gear, but I think they have to play better than they have played this season.
On that quarter-final last year that you mentioned, what was Leinster's superiority based on?
I just thought it was tempo. I thought that they ran Saracens. I thought that they were smart in how they picked them off. I think to beat Saracens, you have to be incredibly smart, but you also have to have the fitness levels, and you also have to have a plan, and you have to stick to the plan because their defence is such a strength of their game that you can get frustrated very easily, and you can get, I suppose, hammered if you don't pick the right option. So you probably have to have, but you definitely have to have great deviation in your attack, little subtle footwork at the line, short passes, but also options out the back, because if you only have options at the line, they can shut you. But if you have an option of, we'll say, a cross kick or a little dink or play out the back of 2 lead runners, then there are interesting options against Saracens. But if you keep spacing in your attack and you play ball in the air, they're going to eat you up. And also the fact that where they're different, I think, from other teams is the fact that they get really excited in defence. A lot of teams are built on attack, but Saracens are built in defence, and one of their key, I suppose, measurements every Monday morning is they measure their GPS for kick chase, which is interesting, and the fact that they will complement players for reaching high speeds when the ball is in the air and eating up the space on the defensive line, and they'll also measure top speeds, which makes it really interesting to be a player in their environment. I would think that you're constantly working both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that is very interesting, all based on a culture of hard work, clearly, and also based on, I think, the notion, Ronan, it's fair to say that the Saracens love to control the pace of the game. And how do Leinster actually wrestle that away from them, where it is in their control, where they can control the tempo of tomorrow evening's game?
Yeah, I think Leinster are more experienced in finals than Saracens are, so I think there's nothing there for Leinster to be overly concerned about. I would say that they'll have a plan, like all good teams have, in terms of when they want to put their foot on the pedal, and also when they want to, you know what I mean, steal time or steal moments of recovery through the game, because it's very rare that you'll have complete 80-minute dominance. It doesn't happen at that level of sport, and we've really seen that with the round ball this week, how especially in Spurs game, how momentum changes when you think a team is dead and buried. So from Leinster's point of view, I think they'll have a few set calls that they can go to. You know, so for example, for the listener out there, an obvious example would be if Leinster get a penalty, you can take 60 seconds to kick the ball into touch, or you can take 10 seconds to kick the ball into touch. the hooker can walk to the line out or the hooker can run fast to the line out. So that's probably an obvious example to people at home about how you can speed up the game or how you can slow down the game. But if you're doing that, I suppose, consistently or repeatedly, you might get joy on, for example, on the fourth penalty, when you kind of just push your opposition to a point where one of them switches off mentally and doesn't do the role that their defensive coach has prescribed him to do if Leinster do a line-out peel, for example, or attack the transition zone inside Farrell's. The connection between back of the line-out and Farrell. So you're just looking for one little weak point there, and that happens usually when, the brain is stressed or when you're hitting fatigue levels in a game.
That's interesting. Is it possible that there is an area to be targeted there in the link-up between the pack and the backs on the Saracens side? And I wonder, is that part of the key of stopping the influence of Owen Farrell? Yeah,
there always is, just because of the makeup of a line-out. And I think with the Stuart Lancaster, he'll have, and obviously Leo Cullen being an excellent line-out tactician, I think they would probably... it will be an area that they target. Most teams do own, but it depends on the deception, the speed, and also the timing is crucial when you're going at that zone, because obviously the tail gunner has one role to do, but if you can bring, a forward, your 7 or your 8, and play your 9, then it poses all kinds of questions for the first defender from Saracens, which is usually Farrell, and he is a really good defender. But you can only be really good if you have one man to take. If you have two people coming at you, you gotta kind of play a little bit of a guessing game.
Yeah, like Alan Quinlan this morning on OTBAM was kind of undecided about that idea of actually targeting Farrell in that way, of actually running down the 10 channel. But you're saying that there's strength in numbers with regards to this tactic.
Yeah, I don't think the tactic of running at Farrell is a smart move.
Right.
I just think he's too good a defender for that. I think what challenges even the best of defenders is late options at the line. If it's an obvious one runner or one threat at the line, he'll eat it up all day. If he has a decision to where's the blindside wing, where's the 12 and where's the 10, and what kind of spacing is in between it, how long is the ball in the air, if there's a capacity for two attackers to pick the same pass, that poses problems for the defender.
Yeah, of course it does. Matt Williams this morning was also making the point in the Irish Times that you must make Owen Farrell play behind the gain line. How annoying is that as an out half to actually be made to play behind the gain line?
Yeah, of course it is, yeah, but that's everyone will focus on the Johnny versus Owen battle tomorrow, but the reality is one of them will have a far easier ride than the other. Unless it's complete parity, which is very rare, but usually a pack of forwards set out their mark and get an advantage. Whether they can maintain the advantage for 80 minutes is up for debate at this level. But you look at the Saracens pack and the Leinster pack, and on paper for me there's very little between them, so it's a hard one to call. But it looks like tomorrow is, for me, it has an error written all over it as opposed to a moment of magic. I just think you're going to see a lot of kick tennis, a lot of kick chess, and it'll be interesting to see who cracks first and who actually tries to force it, because Saracens actually want you to play, and then they'll chop tackle you. One of them will get in on the poach and then a penalty, and all of a sudden that's their game, building in 3, 6, 9s, and then they have players that will score tries. But the key is, I think, that if you can keep your penalty count in single figures, or probably 8 or under, you have a great chance of winning the game.
You mentioned the scrum there, Ronan. How much credit can Mark McCall take for the success that they're having in that department, Saracens?
In the scrum?
Yeah.
Do you know what, Owen? I don't know much about it, to be honest. It's amazing. I'm in rugby so long, but it's so specialised at the minute, and so open to interpretation, which is probably frustrating from anyone involved in the game, because there's very few people who actually probably understand exactly what goes on in there. But the key probably comment is it affects everybody. So if Tadhg Furlong gets dominance tomorrow, or wins his team a penalty, it probably could be the making and turning point in the game. It's that significant, Dawn, in terms of, that's the beauty of rugby. There are so many varied, I suppose, aspects and so many different elements that you have to get right for a complete performance. The scrum being utmost, like, people don't understand the benefit of your tight head getting a slight angle up in the scrum, how you can launch a back launch. It's absolutely crucial, you know what I mean? Just in terms of the 9 then can push the pass another metre in front of the 10, and all of a sudden you're on the front foot. If you're on the front foot in rugby now, when teams are so good around the ruck, you're going to maintain possession. When you maintain possession, usually there's an infringement for offside midfield, or hands in a ruck, or a moment of ill discipline. So a lot has changed in the games, but the fundamentals haven't changed. And scrum dominance, or scrum kind of dealing with the referees' interpretations and dealing with your opposition and winning the penalty count is a huge plus for any team.
Yeah, the referee's interpretation, I think, is going to be an important part of the dialogue around tomorrow. And Jerome Garces is the man in the middle. What sort of referee or what sort of refereeing performance are you expecting from Jerome Garces? What will the Leinster players have to keep in mind before going into the rucks or into any sort of scrum against Saracens tomorrow? Yeah,
I think it's very, very important that everybody, coaches, players, get an understanding of how he is reffing. You will have, both teams will have done intense homework on the guy. What are his habits? What does he like? How can you speak to him? What does he accept? What does he not accept? Do you have to speak through your captain? So in that regard, it's a European Cup final for him. I would presume he will be nervous. I would presume it's a big day for him. Will he be affected by the atmosphere? More than likely, yeah. That's the reality of what happens. So there's a skill in playing the referee, and there's a skill in being able to take 1 or 2 harsh calls that go against you, because his bread and butter is the top 14. It'll be completely like a different sport, the game he's refereeing tomorrow, with the tempo these two teams will play, with the fitness levels of the two teams, with probably the ambition of the two teams, because, you know what I mean, the reality of the top 14 is a marathon, but it comes alive around the barrage for 3 games of the year, where you have a fantastic level of sport and a fast game. But tomorrow, for Leinster and for Saracens, one of the, I suppose, most important thing of senior players or leaders in a team now is understanding how is the ref reffing the breakdown. And also, it's very rare at this level that you get penalties against you for back chat, but something like that could actually break all the good work you've done.
Is it possible to push the boat out a little bit with, I don't want to use the word cynicism, Ronan, but I guess that's the term I'm going to use. Can he be a little bit more cynical in a game reffed by Jerome Garces, particularly, as you mentioned, at the breakdown?
Well, yeah, it comes down to interpretation. What's a ruck? What's a tackle? If you got 10 coaches, if you got 10 players, I'm sure you'd have 10 different answers on. So from that point of view, it's a hugely complex area, and people, what's holding on? Is there tackle or release? Has he shown clean space? Has he released his arms? So that's one way of going it. The other way of it is backing your team to take the ref out of the game, concentrating on your performance, realising that the opposition will have moments in the game that will be very difficult to contain, and doing your best to contain them, but also, I suppose, channeling your energy into ruling out the referee, knowing that you're going to get a few calls for you, 1 or 2 probably against you, and then putting your energy in that compartment.
When it comes to last year's final, I think there was relatively high expectations. The game didn't really live up to those expectations. It was a poor enough game. The one component that was missing, though, from that final last year was James Lowe, and his spark is something that we're all going to be looking out for tomorrow. What does he bring to this Leinster team? And I don't know, could he have potentially made that a very different game in the final against Racing last year in terms of a spectacle for the neutral?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, everyone listening to it looks at it from I suppose, an Irish point of view, Leinster point of view, if you're looking at it probably from a neutral point of view, it was a game Racing could have easily won on. They left points out there. People forget that there was their third choice out half that was playing. You know, if Lambie or Carter was on the pitch, I'm sure the result would have been different. It's just not possible for someone like Remy Tales to play 80 minutes at that level and be able to function at the end of the game, considering the season and the age he had. And that's not a slight on him, that's just reality of it. So in that regard, yeah, finals, they're usually close games and they're different. And about James Lowe, he just you have to expect the unexpected. That's his norm. He's capable of absolute moments of magic. I think the one area that he needed to improve was the defence, and he's got a lot better under, I suppose, excellent coaching in Leinster. But you got to realise in the black corner there's a lot of really good players as well. So he has lit up the competition. But experience tells you that I think it's important that you probably comment on this after the event. There could be a twist tomorrow. There is a time and a place, obviously, for attacking complete rugby, which he has, and he is a breath of fresh air when it comes to it. But also, if he has a loose carry and he gets a hard shot and the ball spills out and it kicks on the pitch, that could be a moment of opportunity for Saracens also. So it works both ways. Attack-wise, yes, incredible attacker, but I think when it gets to this stage of the season, when it's so very little between the teams, defence wins championships, defence wins cups, and I'm not negative. I love attacking rugby, but I just think it's important that you own 50% of the game is attack, 50% of the game is defence. They have equal parity in my mind, and I think in a lot of coaches' minds. So if you are exceptional going forward and pretty weak, I'm not saying James Lowe is weak defensively, it actually doesn't add much to your team. You need a guy that is actually all round to be making an impact at this level.
It's an extremely tough one to call, Ronan. Are you leaning one way or the other?
No, I'm not actually. That was my article in the Examiner this morning. I think it was. I said, is it okay if you're not able to call it? And I was asking the question. I can't call it because I just think you have the two best teams by a country mile. Saracens are unbeaten in the competition this year. The hunger levels of Leinster to do 5 in a row, which would be an incredible achievement. So they are gung-ho for it. It makes for a brilliant game. But you look at the Saracens pack, they have as much quality as Leinster have. The half-back duel is going to be really interesting. Could be a massive opportunity for Ringrose and Henshaw to show their class to everyone again. These are the games that you love playing, European Cup final. But from a player's point of view, it's not about playing on. You want to play well. That's what makes the real competitors, and you see those boys shine on Saturday night. So I actually think it is really difficult to call, but as an outsider, it's just a game that I've been looking forward to for a long time to watch, because it's going to be there's obviously the tactical battle, but also you're going to have to go play as well. You can't just keep giving the onus to the opposition, because someone will pick you off if you keep doing that. So you got to reveal your hand at some stage. But when you reveal your hand and how you reveal your hand will be so telling.
Just before we wrap up, Ronan, it's been a fairly eventful week down in Munster as well. Felix Jones and Jerry Flannery confirmed that they're going to depart the province at the end of the season. You touched on it in your Irish Examiner column this morning, and it's something that I'm sure is in the mind of a lot of Munster fans this week. The fact that not only are these two fairly promising coaches, by all accounts, leaving the province, they're also two people who are very closely aligned with the province, and I wonder if a little bit of the identity has gone with them or will go with them.
Yeah, of course it will, yeah. That's the harsh reality, and that's the best way of putting it. It's, as I said, I don't know them as coaches because I've never been coached by them, but I know them as people, and they're good guys and they're easy to get along with. So there was obviously a breakdown, and I'm not in contact with either of them. There was obviously a breakdown at some point recently about what their roles were and what they were going forward. And also there was a breakdown in the fact that it's May now and they haven't their future sorted out for a season that starts in July.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't. I think there must have been something in the background that either Jordy or Felix or both weren't happy with. But it is very important, I think, for the Irish provinces to have local coaches that really care about the environment. And I know Jordy and Felix care deeply about Munster. So in that regard, it was a shock for me and for a lot of people, because I think you're losing two good men.
Who should Munster be looking at for that elusive attack coach role?
I don't know. It sounds odd, but I'm preparing it for a game tonight, and I actually haven't even thought about it. It sounds easy, but when you probably strip it back, who is available? There's a World Cup in 4 months' time. But the club season starts obviously in July, and you want to, hit the ground running. So you need someone there. Otherwise, really, it rolls into another season. But I'm sure, Philip and Doug and the boys in Munster will be looking at all options, because I still believe that Munster has so much to offer world rugby and is still a world class brand. But this was probably could have potentially been handled better, I would think, from a big supporter of Munster. The fact that it got to this stage and could it not have been dealt with internally and hopefully a better resolution found. But unfortunately, now we have two promising young coaches moving on, and the problem, it's not as if they're going to be back there the season after all. It looks like it's a complete rupture because it has gone public, which is probably what disappoints me.
Well, it's going to be a huge few months for Munster off the pitch as well, and of course they've got a semi-final to look forward to against Leinster next weekend. You're in Cape Town, as you mentioned. You got a game tonight against the Stormers. Will you find a pub to watch the game in tomorrow?
I'm in Pretoria now.
Or in Pretoria?
Cape Town, tomorrow. Yeah, we're playing the Bulls tonight. Yes, I will. It's actually it's all over Super Sport over here. Yeah, so worst case scenario, I'll be able to watch it in the bedroom, but hopefully have a more enjoyable match than that on,
Well, enjoy the match tomorrow, and best of luck in year one this evening, Ronan. Good to talk to you.
Come on.